We have all understood that the strategy on behalf of Europe, which was basically copying the American in the last 2.5 years, was a failure. Sanctions hit European economy more than the Russian economy. Weapon deliveries did not change the situation on the battlefield. More and more people are dying. So our position is crystal clear. There should be a ceasefire established as soon as possible, which would give the chance for peace talks to be started. If you look at the developments of the last 2 weeks, it was so obvious that all pro-war politicians of the European Union popped up, and they started to attack us because of our peace mission. We have to understand that a pro-peace position in the European Union, the North Atlantic area, is in a minority. But being in a minority does not mean that we have to give up. We have to continue this peace mission of ours, especially putting into consideration that my feeling is that the global majority is on our side. And the global majority wants peace, the global majority wants the diplomatic channels to be reopened. And if we can contribute to that, then it's fine. And I try my best. We are a patriotic government, we are a conservative government, we are a government which is ready to swim against the current. It became very obvious that we have to count with continued attacks. But these attacks will not be able to divert us from representing national interest. And the national interest is that there should be peace in Ukraine as soon as possible. And we all know that this war doesn't have a solution in the battlefield. That has been proved already for the last 2.5 years, very clearly. And if there's no solution on the battlefield, then the solution is only around the negotiating table. But if we block the channels of communication, if we don't talk to each other, if we organize events where only one party of the two having war is present, then we will not come to a solution. So, therefore, we will continue our peace mission. We will continue to represent our national interest, and we don't take too much care about the attacks, because if you only take care of the attacks, then you don't have time for real things to be done, right? UN was established not as a group of like-minded countries, but as a platform where everybody can talk to each other, even if there are some disagreements. So whenever we talk to Minister Lavrov, we do it on the basis of mutual respect. And we will definitely touch upon how we can make peace in Ukraine and how we can further improve our bilateral relations. We made it very clear that on those areas which are not affected by the sanctions, we are absolutely interested in the future improvement of the bilateral cooperation between the Russian Federation and Hungary.
Даю слово представителю Соединенного Королевства.
Thank you. President, while you tell us how you believe the world order can become more just, democratic and sustainable, your military is systematically bombing civilians in Ukraine in an unprovoked war of aggression and in flagrant violation of the UN Charter. What is just about trying to annex another country's land? What is democratic about trying to subjugate another country's people? It is therefore vital that the Russian government stops sourcing weapons from DPRK in violation of UN Security Council resolutions and stops its attempts to disrupt UN work in Africa.
The United States welcomes the opportunity to come together to discuss this serious matter of international peace. And so it's ironic that today, the very country that erected this statute, this statement of the UN's ideals, is now actively engaged in a war of aggression against its neighbor. A war that has weaponized food, worsening food insecurity, not only for Ukrainians, but for tens of millions of hungry people around the world. In particular, Putin has treated human beings as bargaining ships and continue to do so to this day.
Elle bombarde systématiquement les infrastructures énergétiques et alimentaires ukrainiennes, privant sciemment la population civile de l'accès aux biens essentiels.
Предоставляю слово представителю Китая.
Second, against the backdrop of the crisis in Ukraine and ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict, countries are highly concerned about international common security, and many peace-loving countries and people are working tirelessly to bring peace. However, NATO, a regional military bloc left over from the Cold War, has been seeking to expand its sphere of influence, stopping at nothing to create false narratives, pouring oil on the fire wherever they go, stirring up confrontation between camps, and even resort to shifting the blame to countries outside the region to frame them on the issue of Ukraine, which is just the opposite of what the international community is doing in terms of persuading and promoting peace and negotiation. History has amply proved that wherever NATO's dark hand extends to, turmoil and chaos will ensue. China hereby advises NATO and other countries in question to have a soul-searching and self-inspection and stop being the troublemakers who jeopardize common security at the expense of others.
Дел и торговли в Венгрии, его превосходительство господина Петера Szijjárto.
I'm representing a country, Hungary, which has been living in the shadow of a war for 2.5 years now. And we have been confronted with the direct consequences of this war. We have received more than 1 million refugees. We have been faced with war inflation. And we had to pay tremendously high energy prices. So I can tell you, colleagues, that a war looks totally different from the neighborhood compared to an ocean away. Dear Sergey, dear colleagues, first of all, thank you so much. And I have to tell you that I have participated on a number of events, number of meetings in the European Union in these last 10 years, when we discussed the issue of armed conflicts and wars far away of Europe. And what was the European position always? Urging the parties of the war, of that given war, to give up the battlefield solution, to sit around the negotiating table, to go for peace, negotiate with each other, look for the diplomatic solution. And what is the position now when there's a war going on in Europe? Totally different. And not only totally different, but the word peace, the word negotiation, if it is being used by someone, is being stigmatized immediately. The last 2.5 years have proved clearly in our neighborhood that there is no battlefield solution for the war in Ukraine. We have to give back the legitimacy for diplomacy. And I have to tell you, colleagues, this is not only unacceptable, but scandalous, really scandalous, that a country is being stigmatized in the 21st century just because arguing in favor of a diplomatic solution